guys, so hopefully we can be back to regular scheduled programming here. It's been a weird adjustment period for me. I don't know if you like this background. This is just what I came up with, or rather what my friend told me to do as a possible background, because the other one that I was filming in front of in the Get Ready With Me wasn't as cute. So you tell me what you prefer down below. This just has the best lighting, I feel. Got the windows. Now this is a video I've actually been wanting to do for quite a long time. I've had it written down in my list of videos for a really long time, but I didn't really know my full stance on it and how to approach it really until I saw Julia's video, or Ready to Glare, on AntiRecovery. There is a community on Tumblr, which I'm not trying to copy her channel by any means or her videos. They just inspire me to talk about kind of a different side of things to what she talks about. So obviously I'll have her video linked so you can go check that out if you want to know what I'm referencing partially in this video. But there is a community out there that is anti-recovery and in the sense of mental illness, and that they do not want to be quote-unquote normal, and they embrace fully their mental illnesses, which, you know, to a certain extent I can see why. Not necessarily agree fully, but I can see why you would want to, especially if it's something that's chronic or lifelong and there's no cure. You probably should at some point in your life embrace it, or at least learn to cope with it. Basically the question is, should we be proud to have our mental illness be a part of our identity, or should we treat it as something that we don't want? I mean, I think it's kind of an obvious answer for some, in that it is a negative thing. I don't know many people who want mental illnesses. If we all had a choice to get rid of ours, those of us who do experience it, we would probably choose to not have it. But it might not be that black and white for many, if not all people. I think the gray area is that it's okay to not be ashamed of our mental illnesses. I don't think that we should be. Obviously, part of decreasing the stigma is talking about it more and not being ashamed to have it or be ashamed to talk about it. But in my opinion, I don't think that that's the same thing as being proud to have it, as something that is wanted. Because when I think of the word pride and where the, you know, what the definition is and where it comes from, to me it seems like that's something that you would feel, an emotion you would feel about something that was positive or something that you're happy to represent, and I don't necessarily believe that mental illness should be that. I think possibly the feelings of pride might stem from other things, other factors of having the illness, rather than proud to have the specific illness. For example, when I did the student summit in San Francisco for Bring Change to Mind about, you know, just bringing awareness to mental illness, when they did my introduction, when I was walking out in front of 250 people, they said that I had seasonal affective disorder. Now, obviously that was a very scary moment for me, because although I talk about it so openly with 350,000 people, which, by the way, thank you for 350,000 subscribers. As scary as it was, and, you know, such a reality to have it, I mean, it's different, I think, talking about it online versus telling 250 people to their face in a room that you have an illness. But it was more of me not being ashamed in that moment. You know, I felt pride in a sense that I was proud to give that mental illness a face to these students and to help bring awareness to it. But would I rather live without it? Absolutely. So I think there is a gray area, and the feeling of being proud of a mental illness isn't necessary. I think it's not necessarily of the illness itself. I'm not proud to have seasonal affective disorder, but in that moment, I was proud to represent it in that situation for these students and say, you know, you can still be functioning, and just show the positives to it, and that, you know, I can overcome it, you can overcome it, we can all talk about it openly and decrease the stigma together. And I think it can also depend on the illness as well. Like I mentioned before, those who have something that is chronic or lifelong are probably more likely to accept it and, you know, take pride in it, versus someone who might experience depression or anxiety once or twice in their lives. Those who have a personality disorder or schizophrenia that isn't curable, but it is treatable, I think would still choose to not have it if given the choice. And it seems to me, based on Julia's video and the evidence that she provides and all the screenshots from Tumblr, that this community claims that you shouldn't seek treatment and don't let people tell you that you're wrong or that you're weird or you're not normal, and to see it as less of a negative thing. But like Julia said, there's so many negative aspects to a mental illness. There's so many negative emotions. Why would anyone just want to take it? I mean, granted, some do without treatment, and more power to them, but discouraging others to not seek treatment for the mental illness and to just embrace it as it is, as they are, is not healthy advice, in my opinion. A lot of people in this community are making fun of neurotypicals, which I'm not sure if that is necessarily just meaning healthy brain, or if it has to do with not being on the autism spectrum, as I've seen other people say. But basically they're making fun of mentally well people, those who do not have mental illness. They mock them and they say, don't listen to them, or you don't want to be one. But in my head, I want to scream, is that not the goal? Is the goal not to be mentally well? Like, why would we want to continue being depressed or having a mental illness if we have the option to not? Also, if we are going to treat it as the same as physical illness, which a lot of people in the in this community, in the mental health community, we like to compare it to physical illness a lot, because physical illness is obviously treated a different way than mental illness, and we like to compare the two and say, well, mental illness or mental health is just as important as physical health. I mean, if you lack one or the other, your life is just not the same. So if we were to compare mental health with physical health and mental illness with physical illness, is the goal not to treat it? Like, if you have cancer, is the goal to say, you know what, who cares about all these able-bodied people? Don't listen to them telling you you need to treat your illness. Just learn to live with it and, accept that you're different. But the goal, to me, should be, and seems, I mean, granted, this is a biased video, clearly, because I have a strong opinion in it, but I believe that the goal should be to treat it, and if it is a lifelong thing, obviously to accept it and to learn to cope with it, but also to find treatments to help you live as normal of a life as possible. Is that not the goal? Do we want our mental illnesses to affect our daily functioning? Of course not. Of course not. And it makes me question what these people are actually experiencing, because those who experience severe depression or schizophrenia or mental illness, personality disorders, anything in that realm, they can't function as normally, and I want more than anything to just function like all these other people we see on YouTube. Granted, that's a different kind of topic because obviously we only see a little snippet of their day, but that's often what I compare myself to, and I wish I could function like them. I wish I could go out in public every single day and do things, and I feel like a lot of people who struggle with mental illness wish the same thing. Those who have personality disorders probably wish that they didn't. So I don't understand why they're so quick to be anti-recovery. That doesn't make sense to me, because we want to not have these things and to not have these symptoms, because they're obviously negative, but they're seeing it as a positive, which blows my mind. I feel like there's two ends to this spectrum here of accepting it, and I don't know, some people just love their mental illnesses, and to me that is a little weird, because it's something so negative, and obviously if we compare it, like I said, to physical illness, I don't know how you can learn to love it. It's one thing to learn to cope with it if it is a permanent thing that's gonna, have to be dealt with in your life. I understand finding the right treatments, or maybe no treatments and you just learn to live with it. But to love it and to be proud of it and to be anti-recovery makes me cringe a little bit, because it is such a negative thing, and I mean, it should be treated as such, in my opinion, because it's not good for anyone involved. And their defense I mean, I'm not going to talk too much about Julia's video, you can go watch it, but their defense is that it's painted as such a negative picture and that they're so scary and stuff like that, which I agree. How some mental illness is portrayed in the media and how it's discussed is not ideal, because it makes it seem like something it's not, but we can't go so far to say that mental illness is a good thing and it makes you a good person, because that's not the case for a lot of people. And like someone had mentioned before on my comment I left on Julia's video, that sometimes when you're depressed, that seems to be a comfortable place and you don't really want to get out of it because you're afraid. And that's kind of different from what I'm talking about and what she talked about in her video. It's more to do with the pride taken. So it's not so much, you know, being comfortable in your mental illness and just, you know, feeling like this is just how it is. It's going a step further and to say that it's a good thing and it makes you who you are. So this was kind of a controversial topic. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it down below, and if you agree or disagree with me, make sure to watch Julia's video to make it a well-rounded discussion here, because I did mention it so many times. But yeah, go check out her video, leave your thoughts down below. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.